Hello, how are you doing today? We're going to talk about checklist mindset versus strategic mindset. And this is something that I talked about in one of my recent master classes, and it got a lot of response because the people who were there really had never heard how I talked about managing time, thinking about growing your practice, thinking about doing all of the things in your practice in the way that I described it there. And so I really want to share this concept with you because it has made a huge impact in my life. It's made a huge impact in my client's life. And I know it will make the difference in your life when you really think about these concepts. Because how we think about our time and our law practice, it matters because our mindset determines what we can and can't do. And so today we really are going to talk about the difference between these two mindsets. And this podcast is a training that's leading up to a special half-day online event I'm doing on December 2nd. It's called Your Firm's Best Year, Banish Overwhelm in Your Law Firm and Strategize Its Growth. You can go to dinacataldo.com/2024 to get on the wait list. And then I will be emailing you special trainings leading up to this event that are going to help prepare you. And this episode is actually the very first kickoff to this half-day online event because I'm going to be training you how to think. I want you to think completely differently. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling stressed out, if you feel like you're scrambling to get things done in your practice, you're busy, you're frazzled, you are not in strategic mindset. And in order to plan a 2024 in which you feel more in control of your law firm's growth, feel more in control of the client work that you're doing, until you get into the strategic mindset, you are not going to feel calm and clear and confident about the work that you're doing, about the direction your practice is going. So I want you to just forward this episode to every single lawyer that you know. Let them know that this is the time to start changing their life because we are leading up to December 2nd. That is going to be the time, the day when we are going to be thinking differently about your practice. I'm going to send you all the details coming up. Just make sure you get on the wait list. Go to dinacataldo.com/2024 and you will learn more. Okay. So here's what we're doing today. We are first going to differentiate between the strategic and the checklist mindsets and why the strategic mindset just works so much better than the checklist mindset. And it's going to be so clear to you when we walk through this. Second, we're going to talk about how to move out of checklist mindset and into strategic mindset as fast as possible so you can start calming your overwhelm and start making faster progress towards your goals. This is what my clients do. This is what I work with them on. And I want you to have that secret sauce too. Third, we're going to talk about how strategy and mindset really work together so that you can make progress towards your goals. A lot of people, like when they start listening to anything mindset, they think that means you don't do anything. Mindset is so that you can do things. So if you've ever noticed that you've procrastinated or you put something off that you planned on doing, it's not because you're a bad person or a bad lawyer. It's because your mindset is not in order. Okay. We've got to get our mindset in order so that we can take action. If you're not taking action, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It just means that there's some mindset work to be done there. So when we're thinking about planning for our future, planning the growth of our practices, our businesses, what we want to do is we want to start thinking in a way that is calm and clear, and we strategize for it, and then we implement. But to implement, we need to make sure our mindset is clear, because if we don't believe in ourselves, if we don't believe in the value of our offer, if we don't believe that we can accomplish what we want to accomplish, if we can't see that we are our own worst enemies when it comes to getting things done, if we can't see those blocks and unravel them, then that just means we need to do some mindset work. We've got to do that in order to implement what we've strategized. And we have to clear our mind of all the overwhelm so that we can calm ourselves enough so that we can strategize. So you see how those work hand in hand. We're going to talk more about that. So first off, let's talk about what it means to be in a checklist mentality, a checklist mindset. So you will know you're in a checklist mindset if you wonder why you can't think clearly, right? You notice that maybe you're in a fog sometimes, or you sit at your desk and you feel frozen. You're in a checklist mentality. You're there if you're always telling yourself that you don't have time or that you have too much to do. Or maybe you have a running checklist, like you literally have a running checklist of what needs to get done during your day and you need to do to get your work done, but you don't actually have it on a calendar, right? Like maybe you have some hearings on a calendar and you have some scribbles noted on your calendar, but mostly it's really just a to-do list to tell you, oh, I need to check that off. I need to check that off. You think there is no other way to do things and you just feel stuck. You really can't think of another way to strategize your way out of the overwhelm. You work harder, you work later at night, hoping that maybe you can catch up, but you end up feeling more behind than ever. And it's not because there's anything wrong with you. It's just this current mentality that you find yourself in. You might even think about using a calendar and you might even try it, but it doesn't work. And so you find yourself telling yourself that, you know what, calendars just don't work for me. It's not something that works in my practice. You tell yourself that, this is just, maybe I need a new planner. And that is not what's happening there. What's happening there is that you're looking for something external to fix the problem when it's internal. It's inside our brain. It's literally something that's inside our brain we haven't been able to get our mind around. It's really tough to see the problem when you're in the problem, which is why when you start to pull away from the problem, you start to see solutions, which is what we're going to talk about when it comes to strategic mindset. And then if you start noticing that you are reliant on your checklist and you kind of get that dopamine hit every time you check off something, but you're not doing the things that are the priority. You're doing a lot of busy work. You're doing things that are like, oh, well, I need to do that anyway, and I'm just going to check it off the list. You check it off the list, but it's still not the thing that needs to get done. It's not the most important thing done. You're in checklist mentality. Now, I'm not saying all of this because it means you're a bad person or you're doing things wrong, right? I'm just offering to you that this is where you might be right now. And if you see yourself in this, know that I have been there too. This was me too. So don't worry if that's where you are right now, because there is a path forward. I have taken that path. I have helped my clients through it, and I'm going to help you through it too. So one of the things you might also notice if you're in checklist mentality is that you feel overwhelmed, you feel frazzled, you feel stressed, you feel like you're scrambling or all of those things, right? You are just constantly in a rush. You might even have heart palpitations. I've worked with clients who, they have heart palpitations when they think about work. And so that in large part has to do with how they're thinking about the work that they have to do. And a while back, I was sharing this example of one of my clients, and she actually had a heart rate monitor on while she was running. And she noticed that she was having heart palpitations, that her blood pressure, like I guess that's what you call it, right? Her heart rate was so high in comparison to where it should have been. And she noticed that she was feeling stress in her body, and she started doing some of the mindset work that we had talked through. And she used that on herself, and she literally saw on her heart rate monitor that it went down to normal levels. And that's just what the power of learning these skills can do to regulate your nervous system. And what we really want to do is regulate your nervous system so that you can get into that strategic mindset, so that you can begin thinking in a way that helps you plan your year, plan your week, plan your day. And then you not only just feel more accomplished because you are getting more done, but you feel proud of yourself. Like you really enjoy the way you're showing up in your life. You feel more confident. You feel more calm. The people around you notice. It's so funny because I was talking to one of my clients and she has a young daughter. Her young daughter, she'd noticed, was really picking up on some of the self-talk that my client had. And, she was beating herself up about, what she wasn't doing in her practice, that she should be doing better, all of those things. And her work with me has really been working on the self-talk. So she was just sharing with me recently that, she started some of the practices. One of the practices that we do in our coaching together is to celebrate our wins, right? To really look at what's going well, what are you doing well, and starting to change the self-talk so that we're acknowledging what's working. And she started doing that with her daughter. And when she did, she just started with this, hey, like what went well today at school? And her daughter initially said, nothing went well at school today. But that is normal. That's where we all start as high achievers who really want to be perfect. Like we all start there. And so my client coached her daughter and said, well, no, let's just start with something small. What went well? Like, did you get to school on time? That's a win. And so her daughter started to do that. And then she started doing it more and more. And her daughter suggested, hey, mom, how about every night we make a book about all of our wins and what we did well? And so now they've started this practice of acknowledging what went well during the day. And so that's just a little snippet of the impact that moving away from checklist mentality, where we're beating ourselves up, that's another indication you're in that mentality. Then that moving from that mentality and moving into a more strategic mindset, one where we're more compassionate with ourselves, even impacts our family life, even impacts how our children view us and how they talk to themselves. And so if you start seeing your children mimicking your behavior, know that that's where it's coming from. They're watching you. And in this instance, my client really recognized, hey, this is something we could work on together. And now they're starting this really beautiful practice. So the shifts come when we start doing different things. And so that's what part of this episode is about teaching you to do things differently, think about things differently so that you can get a different result. Okay, I want to give you an example of where you might be in this checklist mentality that could be holding you back. It may be the way that you're thinking about your calendar. It may be the way you're thinking about things that you have done in the past. And the reason I want to talk to you about this is because I had a lawyer come to me and she said that she had been in a program where she was getting coached once a week from 20 to 40 minutes. And she just wasn't making the big picture progress that she thought she should be making. And it made sense to me, but I wanted to articulate it here on the podcast if this is you. And it wasn't because in that instance, she wasn't getting some benefit from those calls. Of course she was. But if we go into a program where we're getting multiple different coaches, then it makes it difficult to make those big picture progresses. And let me tell you what I mean. So let's say you have some fitness goals and you want to go into the gym every few days each week and you want help, just getting fit. Well, day one, you go in, you have trainer number one, and trainer number one tells you to eat these foods, to work out on these things, to do XYZ, and then come back in a couple days. And you come back in a couple days, and then you have a brand new trainer. Well, you have to talk to that trainer again, and you got to catch them up. You've got to say, okay, well, this is where I'm at right now. These are the foods that I'm eating. These are the things that I'm working on. What do you want me to do now? And then you've got this new trainer, and they're giving you some new tips, maybe, but you don't have a consistent routine. You don't have someone who sees what happened on day one and where you might actually need more work, right? Because you might be lifting weights and have really poor form in day one, but the day two trainer hasn't seen that. So they don't know if you have poor form. They are just kind of starting from scratch. They don't know your habits in the gym. They don't know if you have poor form on the treadmill, whether you're lifting weights, whatever it is. So they don't know what to expect. Like they can't really see big picture habits. And then you go in on day 3 for your trainer and you have a brand new trainer, and that trainer doesn't know what happened to days 1 and 2. And so you've got to explain what happened on those days. And then they're learning you all over again. Okay, so you can see what I mean. Like if you're going to the trainer every day, or you're going every other day and you have a brand new trainer, then it's going to be really difficult to make big progress in a short amount of time because you have so many cooks in the kitchen. So, what I want to share with you is in this particular instance, the lawyer was really confused about why she had gotten so much coaching but hadn't seen the results. And so what I want to share with you is that the person who is with you on your journey, if they're not with you every step of the way, they're not going to see your big picture patterns. They're not going to notice whether you're in checklist mentality. They're not going to know if you're in strategic mentality, right? They're just showing up and they're listening to the problem that you're presenting to them without knowing, well, the problem really isn't what you've given them. It's really a bigger picture problem, right? So let's bring it back to the trainer example. You walk into the trainer and you say, I really think that my problem is that I have poor form on the weight machines, and that's why I'm not getting the results that I want. And so that coach is just going to train you, is just going to coach you on better form on those machines. But if that trainer has seen you over a period of time, they might recognize that your form isn't as bad as you think it is. And what the real problem is that your meal plan isn't consistent. You're not showing up consistently for yourself in your meal plan. And that's why you're not actually getting the results that you want. But that trainer would have no way of knowing that if you're just coming to them and you're sharing a problem and you think you know what the problem is, but that trainer can only say what you've told them. They have no idea what the bigger picture problem is. And so when you're taking a step back to get out of checklist mentality, that is something that you want to take into consideration, because to get big picture results, you have to take a step back. You have to have the bigger picture, right? That's what I do as a coach, is I have the bigger picture because I'm working with my clients at least 6 months at a time. Right. Some of my clients, most of my clients resign over and over because they're starting to see results. They get the results and then they want to keep taking it further. So they calm the overwhelm and then they want to build their practice now that they know they can handle it and they can really pour rocket fuel on their practice. So that's what strategic mindset is. Strategic mindset is being able to take a step back, calmly observe what's happening, observe patterns, and then make plans. We can't do that in checklist mentality because we're too close to the problem. And so we can't see that the overwhelm isn't caused by the calendar, right? The overwhelm is actually caused by how we're thinking about time, our relationship with time, our legal practice. And that's what we really have to get away from so that we can get into strategic mindset. Okay, so now let's talk about how to move out of this checklist mentality and into the strategic mindset as fast as possible. Because what we want to do is we want to throw rocket fuel on your results. We want you to start seeing how you use time differently. I want you to start seeing your practice and the things that you're prioritizing within your practice differently. So there's several things that you want to do in order to do this quickest. And what I was doing is when I was writing this podcast, is I was thinking about what are my clients who are getting the fastest results doing that are getting them out of checklist mentality and into strategic mentality faster. Okay, so let's revisit what checklist mentality looks like. There's some additional things that I want you to be aware of. So when we're in checklist mentality, we're often just hoping to get things done and we're working extra hard in our practice. And that is what we think is going to get us the result. But what's actually happening is we're getting ourselves closer to a burnout stage. So we want to make sure that we're not in that burnout stage. One of the things that my clients do who get out of that checklist mentality quicker is they start putting themselves on the calendar. They start prioritizing themselves. I've done multiple interviews with clients on this podcast, but one of them with my client, Shannon Clark, she said this beautifully, is that she just realized that what she wants matters. That was one of the biggest things that clicked for her. And when it did, it changed everything. And she was able to get out of checklist mentality so quickly because she recognized that what she wants mattered. Another thing that I recognize in people who are in checklist mentality, I noticed it in myself too, is that there's a high perfectionism quotient, right? We really want to get things right. We're always looking for the right answer. We're collecting lots of information. We're trying all of the different calendars. We're doing all of the different things to try to get things done. And it doesn't seem to be working. Well, what's happening is we're in such perfectionism. We want to get things done right that we either don't implement, or when things don't go just right, just the way we think they should, like if we're not implementing every little thing on the calendar, then we make ourselves wrong. We make ourselves bad. But what I've noticed with my clients who get out of this checklist mentality quicker and into strategic mentality is that they drop the perfectionism. They embrace failure. And one of the ways I help them embrace this failure is by sharing with them what I was sharing with you earlier, which is how to talk to yourself, how to talk yourself through something when you don't do everything on your calendar that week, and help you keep moving through the calendar instead of giving up on yourself. Like when we're in perfectionism, we give up on ourselves when we're not 100% perfect. But when we are willing to give up that perfectionism and when we are willing to fail, right, that is when we start to get into a mindset that is going to help us. And then we can actually start evaluating, strategizing for the next week. So that's what I teach with my clients is when you plan a week, it's not going to go perfectly. And you have to accept that. Like you have to 100% accept that you're not going to be perfect. Many, many, many times. I'm still not perfect at my calendar, right? Sometimes there are things that I prioritize. Sometimes I tell myself, no, I want some rest today. I'm taking some rest today. So I want you to know that there does not have to be perfection in this. In fact, if you aim for perfectionism, you will 100% fail. So what I want you to know is that you have to give up perfectionism in order to get into a strategic mindset. And when you do, you can start to strategize. You can think about what didn't go well, what you want to do differently, and you can do it in a way that can help you make consistent change moving forward. And that really like sums up a whole lot of what will help you get into strategic mindset faster. Speaking to yourself better, right? Not beating yourself up, and then putting you on the calendar, right? All of these things are going to help you get out of that checklist mentality and get into strategic mindset. Another thing that I have noticed with the clients who have made the biggest progress is the way they talk to themselves about their capabilities. So when I was in checklist mindset, and maybe you notice this in yourself too, I really told myself that I just was not capable, that I couldn't do it, that I didn't have time. There were all the reasons why I couldn't do it. It just wasn't possible. But what my clients do differently to get out of this is they talk to themselves about their capabilities. They remind themselves what they are capable of. They remind themselves of what they do have control over. They really start to see what they can do. And when they see that, when they see what they are doing and they focus on that, their capabilities grow. And when your capabilities grow, not only does that mean your capacity to get more done grows, but your ability to think strategically, to think long-term about the growth of your practice, about the importance of hiring and really planning out how you want to approach the hiring process, really planning out what systems and processes you want to have in place in your practice that need to be prioritized in order for you to get things done in a more effective way. You're able to think through those things so that you can do them. All right, finally, I want to talk to you about how strategy and mindset work together so you can make progress towards your goals. And I was thinking about what I do differently to help my clients really not only get out of that checklist mindset and into strategic mindset, but also how do we use strategy and mindset together? How do we weave them together? And what I notice is that the benefit to them is that they have me every single week watching their brain and looking for patterns. I have like a 100-foot view of what's going on in their life because I'm that neutral observer. I'm coming in every week. I'm seeing exactly what's going on. What are their patterns? Then I'm able to say, okay, here's the mindset you're currently in. Here's some strategy to get you out of that particular mindset and into this new one. So I've had clients, they'll tell me, like, hey, I'm going to plan my calendar on Sunday. And I always check in on them when they tell me this because I've seen the potholes, right? I've coached so many lawyers. I know the potholes. I know exactly the problems that can come up. I know the mindsets that can come up. And so I'm always asking extra questions so that I can find out if they're going to jump into that pothole or not. They're going to trip over it, right? And one of the potholes I see is scheduling calendaring for Sundays. Like you might have the best intent to do it on a Sunday, and that's beautiful. I encourage you to do it. But then if you don't do it on a Sunday, don't tell yourself that calendaring doesn't work, that you can't do a calendar. All that's happened is that you're thinking that you're going to do it Sunday, and Sunday is just not a great day for a lot of lawyers to do their calendar. I say a lot, not all. But I would say 90% of the lawyers that I work with, they have the best intent of scheduling the calendar on a Sunday. And then they realize, oh, wait, Sunday is a day I'd like to have all to myself. And I don't really want to do anything on Sunday. And so I check in with them. And I have one particular client who was scheduling on Sundays. And because I worked with them week after week after week, we started on Sunday and she said, oh, I'm going to do it Sunday. And we coached on it and she said, no, I'm still going to try it. And I said, okay, great. The next week she hadn't done her calendar on the Sunday. And I said, okay, well, what would you like to do? Well, I'd like to try it again on a Sunday. And I said, okay, well, just remember the other week you said you wanted to do it on a Sunday and that didn't work. Tell me why. And she told me all the reasons. And she said, oh, okay, that day doesn't work. I'm going to do it on Monday. And then Monday worked for her, right? Like she just changed the day and she did it on a Monday and it worked just fine. But then what she realized the next week is like she was going, well, I realized what she was doing the next week is like, oh, well, you know what? This week I'm going to plan on a Sunday. And I said, okay, hold on. Let's take a look at this. You can do it on Sunday if you want. But remember 2 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago, you said you were going to do it on a Sunday and Sundays didn't work for you because you like having those days to be in your garden. And Monday worked for you because it was a day when you were going to be working anyway. So let's just really evaluate if that's the best day for you to work on your calendar. And she realized, oh, I just keep doing that. I keep telling myself I'm going to do it Sunday, but I'm not going to do it Sunday. So I'm going to do it on Monday. But she wouldn't have a coach who could see that pattern, that 100-foot view, if she wasn't going to the same coach every single week. So I just want to share with you that even if you've tried something in the past, like let's say you've tried, like I spoke about earlier, a coaching program where you're going once a week, but you're having different coaches, I want you to know that if you're not seeing the progress that you want, it's not because that coaching isn't helping in some way, but it's because they're not getting the 100-foot view of what your specific brain does. And a coach who sees you every single week does. So I also want to offer that if the coaches that you're seeing aren't lawyers, they may not understand some of the potholes that you can slip into. Specifically, if you have court appearances, you have work that you're doing, client work that you're doing, and how specifically you balance those things, they may not understand the ins and outs of that and how you build your business in conjunction with the ins and outs of client work. So if you're seeing a coach who doesn't understand those things, that's also something to consider. It's not necessarily that you're not getting any benefit. It's just that you're not going to get that 100-foot view. So you're not going to make the progress quite as quickly as you might otherwise make it. I'll tell you right now, I've coached so many lawyers on the exact same topics, and I've experienced them myself. And there are the exact same potholes in front of us over and over and over again. But I get to tell them the potholes ahead of time because I've seen them so often. If other people aren't aware of those potholes, they're not going to be able to talk you through them and talk you out and around them so that you're not falling into the same holes. Okay, so let's come back to how strategy and mindset work together. So, a great example of this is a rocket ship. And we can't blast a rocket ship into space without a lot of planning. Okay, first of all, we have to do a lot of equations, right? We have to know where we want to go. We need to have the physical construction of the building of the launch pad, and then we've got to have the physical construction of the rocket. There's got to be lots of preparation of the health of the astronauts going out into space, right? All of these things, we have to know all of these things in advance. That takes strategy. It takes calm, clear planning. If you feel overwhelmed, you're not going to be able to be clear enough to plan. You don't want a frazzled director who is directing that rocket into space. I don't know the official name of the person who helps with that, right? But the person who's directing the rocket into space, you don't want that person to be overwhelmed. You want that person to feel like calm. You want them to seem decisive. You want them to look like they know what they're doing. You don't want them to be too busy to really think through whether or not everything is going according to the plan that was created. Same thing goes before we can really launch a business into the stratosphere. We need to do planning too. We need to make time to prioritize the fundamentals of putting your calendar together, right? Understanding what needs to be prioritized among client work or thinking about your business and where you want it to go. Making time to really think about the client experience or really pouring rocket fuel on those things that you're already doing in your practice that are making the income come into your office so regularly. We really want to start putting pieces into place now that help the future of your practice. That takes strategy. And in order to even make the time to strategize, we have to think clearly. That's where the mindset comes in. If you're frazzled, if you're overwhelmed, if you're exhibiting anything within that checklist mentality, you are not going to be able to clearly plan what you want for your future. I do this all the time with my clients, right? They come to me in the checklist mentality. We do the work to get them out of the checklist mentality. And when they do that, then they can get into the strategy mindset. They can start thinking clearly about their future. And that's what I want to help you with on December 2nd. Make sure you sign up for the wait list. Go to dinacataldo.com/2024. And there you're just going to sign up for the wait list. In the future, I'm going to be sending out some information about it. But that half day is your day to begin thinking about your future. You've got to get out of this checklist mindset. I've been there. I know how hard it is. It feels impossible. I get it. And when I got out of that checklist mentality, my life became so much better. I was able to think so much more clearly about what I wanted and how I could get it. And when I started doing that, I started getting those things. I started making those things happen. And I don't want to see you fall into the pothole of thinking that there's no way out, that you simply can't change, that nothing's working, that, no matter how much work you do, you simply can't change, because that is 100% not true. 100%. I know that speaking from personal experience because I have been there, and I know it because I see it with my clients all the time. And the ones who get the best results implement what I shared with you here. They show up for themselves every single week. They show up for themselves even if they don't feel like it, because they know that they're going to get that 100-foot view of somebody looking on their week. I was talking to a client today, actually. And she and I were going through her calendar. We were evaluating it. She is in the process of building her practice, but she's still, hammering out her calendar so she can work 4 days a week instead of 5. And so she wants to make Wednesdays her day off, and she noticed that she didn't do that, right? So what we were doing is just tweaking some things so she can begin doing that 4-day week. But her brain was telling her she got a B. last week when she was doing her calendar. And when I went through it with her, she was like, oh, wait a minute. I actually did 100% of what was on my calendar. And my brain was telling me that I screwed up, that I did a bad job in these areas. And I was like, no, you accidentally double booked something. That's fine. That's not a problem. And then you actually didn't even put one of those things on your calendar. You just thought you did, right? So you have 100% higher likelihood of getting something done, she said, if you actually put it on your calendar, right? But she didn't see that. Her brain didn't see that because it didn't have the 100-foot view. It was too close to the problem. So she was kind of beating herself up for not getting things done versus, oh, wait a minute. I can just make a few improvements, a few tweaks, and I just put the things on my calendar I want to get done, and it's fine. Like that's it. But our brain, it has a habit. And if your brain is in checklist mentality, it just has a habit of moving towards focusing on the problem versus focusing on the solution. And so what we want to do is get your brain focused on solutions, right? We want you solution oriented. We want you thinking about how you can plan your future and really implement and take action on it. And so part of that is going to be learning what I'm going to be teaching you over the next couple months, prepping you for this December 2nd event. I'm really excited about it. I want you to jump into this. If you're a little lost right now, I want you to know you're going to get more. You're going to get more training. I just wanted to kind of give you the 1,000-foot view of what's going on in your brain so that you understand the difference between using a checklist and being in overwhelm and having that checklist mentality and somebody who is in strategic mentality, somebody who is calm, who talks to themselves kindly, somebody who is really like willing to fail, doesn't feel the need to be perfect, and starts to really put themselves first, puts what they need on the calendar. So I want you to just start thinking about this, and I want you to start thinking about this in terms of your future and what you want for your practice. And sign up for the waitlist. Go to dinacataldo.com/2024 for my new event. It's going to be a half-day event. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait to see you there. All right, my friend, if you are enjoying what you're hearing on the podcast, and if you want to get results faster, if you are kind of tired of just listening passively on this podcast, you want to put things into action, you're ready to take things and take them to the next level. Maybe you have tried a lot of different things in the past. I want you to book a strategy session with me. Go to dinacataldo.com/strategy session. We're going to talk through exactly what you need. We're going to make a game plan, and then you're going to start working with me and learning the skills to implement exactly what you plan. Like these are the skills you need to take your practice to the next level in 2024. And it all starts with a strategy session. So go to dinacataldo.com/strategy session, and I will talk to you soon. All right, my friend, have a wonderful rest of your week. See you next week. Bye.